In Ireland, single mother Sarah drives with her young son Chris toward a quiet countryside home where they hope to start fresh. Their trip takes a strange turn when Sarah slams on the brakes to avoid hitting someone standing in the middle of the road. She makes sure Chris is unharmed before stepping out to check on the stranger, an elderly woman named Noreen. Noreen mutters repeatedly, "He's not my son," her voice low and unsettling. She refuses to answer Sarah's questions, but when her eyes lock on Chris, her stare is so cold and strange that Sarah decides not to risk any further interaction. She picks up her car's broken side mirror from the road and drives off. Life as a single parent is far from easy. Sarah and Chris sometimes clash over little things, like his picky eating, but their bond is strong. She always reminds him she loves him, and they share a private game of making silly faces until they both laugh. One afternoon during lunch, Chris shrieks when he spots a spider in the kitchen. Sarah calmly catches it and releases it outside, but Chris is upset, insisting it will crawl back. He bitterly says his dad would have killed it and then asks why his father didn't come with him. Not knowing how to explain, Sarah simply says it's complicated. That answer angers him even more. He stomps on the spider, calls her a liar, and bolts out the back door into the woods. Sarah chases after him, noticing the wind grow harsher the deeper she goes. She stops short when she finds a massive sinkhole, dark and ominous. Before she can decide whether to investigate, Chris appears behind her and apologizes for mentioning his father, knowing it makes her sad. Relieved, Sarah hugs him and leads him home, keeping the sinkhole secret from him. That night, Sarah hears the creak of the back door and quickly locks it before bed. Chris starts attending a new school, but fitting in proves difficult. When he's handed a flyer for the upcoming school talent show, Sarah encourages him to sign up as a way to make friends, but he stays unsure. Sarah, too, begins to make new acquaintances, including her boss Louise. At a dinner party, the conversation turns to strange local stories, and Sarah hears more about Noreen. Years ago, Noreen burst into her son's classroom, screaming and making a scene so violent it took 3 teachers to drag her out. Her son was transferred to another school, and Noreen was committed to a mental institution. But months later, after being released, she ran over her own child with her car. Nobody in town knows whether it was an accident or something darker. That night at home, Sarah can't sleep. Every sound in the house, the groan of the wind, the creak of the wood, feels sharper. Then a loud bang jolts her upright. She races to Chris's room, but the bed is empty. Panic sets in. She searches every room before spotting the back door wide open. Grabbing a torch, she runs into the dark, eerie forest, calling for Chris. The night air is heavy, and unsettling noises echo between the trees. The instant she hears something strange move in the darkness, she turns and sprints back to the house, shutting the door behind her. Just as she's about to call the police, Sarah freezes. Chris is standing at his bedroom doorway, saying he's been there the whole time. The next day, still unsettled, Sarah visits a doctor. He asks if she has a history of anxiety and examines a scar on her forehead from an accident the year before. Convinced stress is affecting her, he prescribes sedatives to take before bed. Back home, Sarah calls Chris into the kitchen. But when he appears a second after she calls, her unease spikes. How could he have gotten there so quickly? Doubting her own senses, she begins taking the pills at night, hoping they'll quiet her mind. The next morning, Sarah wakes to find Chris standing by her bed, holding a bunch of flowers he says he picked outside. She scolds him for wandering off when he's not supposed to, but eventually softens, accepting the flowers and hugging him. When she picks him up from school later that day, Sarah is surprised to see Chris surrounded by friends, including one boy who used to bully him. On the drive home, they encounter Noreen standing in the middle of the road again. She and Chris lock eyes, staring at each other with unsettling intensity. When honking doesn't work, Sarah gets out to ask Noreen to move. This time, Noreen leans close and whispers, "It's not your boy." Before Sarah can react, Noreen's husband, Des, appears, apologizing for not keeping a closer watch on his wife. While Des is distracted, Noreen strides over to Sarah's car, banging on the passenger window and repeating, "It's not your son." She slams her head against the glass, trying to break it. Sarah immediately jumps into the driver's seat and speeds away, watching in the rearview mirror as Des restrains his wife, who fights him furiously. The following morning, on the way to drop Chris at school, Sarah decides to drive past Noreen's house. She's horrified to see Noreen lying on the ground, her head buried in the dirt, dead. Later, when the police arrive to take her statement, Sarah notices one of the officers playing arm wrestling with Chris. For a moment, she thinks she sees Chris using unnatural strength, maybe even breaking the officer's wrist, but blinks and it's gone. Shaken, Sarah showers and notices her forehead scar bleeding again for no reason. At work the next day, her boss Louise brings up Noreen's death immediately. Sarah changes the subject to parenting, admitting there are moments when she looks at Chris and doesn't recognize him. Louise, a mother of twins, reassures her that it's normal. Children change quickly, and parents just have to adjust. Later, Sarah attends Noreen's funeral at her home. The place is lined with mirrors in every room, though today they're all covered in black cloth. A grieving Des shares a drink with Sarah, and she takes the opportunity to ask why Noreen claimed Chris wasn't her son. Des explains that after their own son's 8th birthday, Noreen began noticing subtle changes in the boy's personality. She became convinced he was an imposter. Des insists Noreen didn't kill their son. It was he who accidentally ran the boy over in the driveway. Days pass. Sarah tries to return to her routine. While jogging through the forest, she finds Chris's favorite action figure on the ground. Nearby, she hears strange, unintelligible whispering coming from the massive sinkhole. Later at lunch, Sarah watches in shock as Chris devours food he used to refuse. She confronts him about the toy. Chris denies ever leaving the house, but Sarah produces the action figure and presses him for the truth. Suddenly, he explodes with anger, shoving the table at her with shocking force. Realizing what he's done, he mutters an apology and retreats to his room. That night, Sarah hears strange noises from Chris's bedroom. Peering through the keyhole and the gap under the door, she sees a disturbing sight. Chris crawling on all fours, catching a spider and eating it. Horrified, she retreats to her own room. When Chris knocks to check on her, she simply wishes him good night as if nothing happened. The next day, Sarah takes Chris to the doctor. The examination reveals nothing unusual. In private, Sarah describes his changes in behavior, but the doctor focuses instead on her mental health, even asking if her scar was really from an accident or if Chris's father caused it. Determined to get answers, Sarah buys a video camera and hides it inside the wall of Chris's bedroom. That night, she skips her sedative. In the morning, Chris continues to eat unusually large portions. Sarah apologizes for being distant lately, but Chris responds by reaching up, touching her scar, and violently driving his fingers into it. She screams, only to wake and realize it was a nightmare. That afternoon, Sarah attends Chris's school talent show. His class performs as a choir, singing a song about a hole in a bog. As they sing, the lights dim and the audience seems to melt away until only Sarah and Chris remain on stage. Chris stares at her, his voice flat and emotionless as he recites the lyrics, the words echoing ominously in the empty room. Sarah bolts from the hall, desperate to get away, but every door she tries is locked. Panic sets in until Louise finds her and asks what's wrong. Breathless, Sarah blurts out that Chris isn't her son. Just then, Chris arrives with his teacher, forcing Sarah to flee again. This time she finds a way out, racing home to retrieve the hidden video camera. She reviews the footage, and what she sees chills her to the core. Knowing she needs someone else to confirm it, she heads straight to Des's house. He lets her in and explains that all the mirrors in his home were Noreen's doing. She believed mirrors could reveal the truth and always wanted proof her husband was the real one. Sarah shows him the footage, insisting that whatever happened to his son is now happening to Chris. Des refuses to accept it, angrily smashing the camera to the floor. He won't admit his son had a problem, but he also won't call Sarah crazy. Sarah returns home and salvages the SD card from the broken camera. Chris is already there, upset that she left him alone. She claims she ran off because she wasn't feeling well, earning a hug from him. Over dinner, it's revealed Sarah has been slipping sedatives into Chris's food. Once again, he eagerly eats a dish he used to despise. After the meal, Sarah suggests they play their favorite game, but Chris doesn't remember it. She tells him outright that he isn't her son. The thing wearing Chris's face growls and attacks, slamming her around the kitchen until she loses consciousness. When Sarah wakes, the creature is dragging her outside, trying to bury her head in the dirt like Noreen's had been. But the sedatives kick in, and the creature collapses before it can finish. Sarah escapes and drags it into the basement, using her broken side view mirror to check its reflection, revealing a horrifying, faceless monster. It wakes and lunges at her, but even with unnatural strength, it's still the size of a child, and she shoves it off. The shapeshifter unleashes an ear-splitting, demonic screech as Sarah locks the basement door. Free from immediate danger, she focuses on rescuing the real Chris. She grabs a flashlight and runs to the forest, letting the sinkhole swallow her into a narrow underground tunnel. She crawls through until she reaches a cavern littered with human bones. And there, she finds Chris unconscious. She scoops him up, but the faceless creatures that live there are waking. Dragging Chris through the tunnel is slow and grueling, but it also means the creatures can only come at her one at a time. One manages to grab her wrist, stealing her face in an instant, but Sarah bashes it with her flashlight until it lets go. She scrambles out of the hole and checks Chris. He's alive, waking in her arms. They run back to the house. The car doors are locked, so Sarah leaves Chris beside the vehicle and dashes inside for her keys. From the basement, the fake Chris's voice calls to her. She knows there's only one way to end this. She sets the house ablaze, then drives off with her son. Weeks later, Sarah and Chris are living happily in the city, but she's never let her guard down. She takes constant photos of Chris, double-checking his face for any sign of change, and their new home is lined with mirrors on every wall, just in case.